Hello everyone, Resins here, and today we'll be looking at some of the replays from the War is Coming tournament that is currently being hosted on the Voobly gaming client. Now, if you're not aware, War is Coming is by far the largest Age of Empires 2 tournament in history, boasting a massive prize pool of $120,000. And so many of the best Age of Empires 2 players have come together to form teams so that they may compete in this tournament. Of course, big thanks to Voobly, AOC Zone, and the generous TyRanT sponsor for helping keep the competitive scene of Aoe2 alive and well. Alright, so today I'll be giving my commentary on the first match between the TyRanT Legends team and the NC Friends Arma team. This is part of the group stages now that the qualifiers has ended. So Game 1 in what I believe is a best-of-5 series will be played on the map Land Nomad. Now, before I introduce the teams and give you guys a little bit of backstory, I want to take a moment to briefly explain the map Land Nomad and the type of strategies that we can expect from the players here today. So, Land Nomad is of course very similar to the standard Nomad map that we have in Age of Empires 2, where every player spawns without a town center, no scout cavalry either. They still have their usual 3 villagers, but they are scattered across the map, and the players here are going to have to pick a strategic location to settle as the resources are spread out very, very widely across the map. Now, Land Nomad plays out a lot differently than the standard Nomad map, mostly because the regular Nomad map has like a third of the map is covered in water. There are a lot of fish, so you usually see players put down an incredibly early dock to try and compete for control of the water, whereas Land Nomad obviously is all land, not a single drop of water on this map at all. Another key difference is that you don't actually start with a lot of resources on this map. You start with the standard amount, whereas on the regular Nomad map, the players will have enough resources to the point where they could actually build a town center right off the bat. That is why you will see right now that every player here is building a lumber camp and they're going to get to chopping away. And while they are chopping away, now is a better time than ever to introduce the players. As you can also see, Kkab scouting with his sheep very, very well, making great use of every single resource he has at hand. So, in the top corner of the map, we have TheViper here, playing as the purple or pink Persians. A little to the left of him, we have the orange Aztecs, being played by Jordan23. And then a little bit below him, we have Kkab playing as the blue Teutons. And then all the way over to the right-hand side of the map, we've got DauT playing as the Chinese. And remember, guys, is that both teams are playing on the mirror civs function, so they will all have the same civilizations on the teams. And now let's move on to the next team, the NC Arma and Friends team, where we have our good friend Skittle over here playing as the Persians, the yellow Persians. A little bit below him, we've got Arma himself, actually. This is Arma, playing as the teal-colored Teutons. A little bit to his left, in the bottom corner of the map, we do have Andorin, playing as the green Aztecs. And to his left, we have NilPferD, playing as the red Chinese. So, a little bit of history on the two teams. I feel like TyRanT Legends needs no introduction, as if you've been watching any competitive Age of Empires 2, you are probably aware of who these players are. I'm sure you've seen some DauT, Kkab, Jordan, and Viper action, all incredibly great players boasting a ridiculous amount of first-place records. The TyRanT Legends and the TyRanT Warlords teams are definitely extremely favored in this tournament. However, we cannot count out NC Arma and Friends, as they are also a very, very strong team, like many of the other teams in this tournament. So the NC Arma and Friends team is sort of a combination of a bunch of different players in here. We'll see that, you know, quite a few of them were actually in the Tribal Wars tournament, if you guys remember that one, and they did place in 6th place. NilPferD was in that one, so they did quite well in that, and I honestly think that if, you know, they put in a lot of practice and they play very well, I am confident that they will be able to take a game off TyRanT. TyRanT is not invincible, but, you know, it's going to be incredibly difficult, of course, as, you know, like I mentioned before, guys, the TyRanT Legends team, very, very scary, very skilled, but what I do expect here is a great, great game. The players here have actually, you know, situated themselves across the map in a very, very intelligent way. As we can see here, you know, both teams clearly divided, but what I like to see is how they position their town centers. You will notice that every player has put their town center close to the wood line. That way they don't need to make another, you know, lumber camp. They get the most out of their town center. They really get to exploit the fact that it is a universal resource drop-off point, and therefore they should put it next to as many resources as possible. Here, this town center right next to the wood line, right next to a bunch of these deer, incredibly easy to just push those under the TC or just harvest them from where they stand. Luring these boars, very easy. This gold mine he'll probably have to build a mining camp for, but, you know, DauT as well right next to this gold mine, so he's going to be able to protect that and keep that very, very safe. In terms of Nomad, there are a lot of civilizations here that just have an inherent advantage over each other, and this is something I feel like I should bring up, is we'll see that DauT here is playing as the Chinese, and then we've got, I believe, NilPferD is playing as the Chinese as well, and these guys start with 6 villagers, which is a huge, huge advantage on Nomad. Obviously, helps you build your town center a lot quicker, you build it twice as fast even, and allows you to harvest a lot of wood quicker to start it sooner. So the Chinese definitely have a pretty big edge on this map, as well as, you know, civs like the Mayans are pretty good as well because they start with an extra villager. Now, we do see that DauT here going for what would normally be a rather early boar lure, considering that, you know, Kkab is only at 6 population, right? So what's going on here? Well, remember, guys, is that DauT is actually Chinese, so if we go check out his population right now, he's actually up to 10 pop, so this isn't completely unheard of. And I think that this is a really smart play on his part, because instead of harvesting from these boars, which he is aware of, he's already scouted these, right? He's actually taking this boar over here, and this is important because it denies Skittle a free boar, basically. So not only is he getting himself a bunch of food income, but he's also denying it from Skittle, so very, very well played on DauT's part here. Now, if we look at the map, it looks like Kkab here actually has decided to lame all these deer, so he's going to shoot them all with his villager, right? So that way it's going to be a lot harder for NilPferD to actually harvest from them as they're going to start decaying right now. Now, here's the thing I was going to mention is if you look at the map, right, Kkab here already starting to wall this area off, which is exactly what I like to see. If we look at Kkab's map, very, very, very easy to wall this off. Look at the way the forests are, the way they've generated. Like, we can see that he can just close off this area with one house, which he's doing right now. He can close off this area really easily, and then he can close off this as well, and he'll basically be pretty hard to attack. So I like to see that from him. Very, very smart. He's going to be luring a boar right about now, and based on the way the map is set up, I don't anticipate there being, you know, too much early aggression between our red and blue players here, as I'm pretty sure, you know, NilPferD is aware that Kkab has a very easy map to wall. Now, I think the real point of contention for this game, just based off looking at the map alone, is definitely going to be between DauT and Skittle here. This map is pretty open, yeah, Skittle could wall this area off, and I expect to see him do it. But this map is rather open, and these two players are by far the closest players to each other on the map. Like, they are not very far away. And I think a huge point of contention as well is going to be the way the gold deposits are situated, and I think this really, really favors DauT. Like, DauT has this gold mine right next to his town center that can't be denied, and we see Skittle right now, he has noticed that gold is going to be a huge problem, and he's already laming this gold by making it really hard to saturate villagers by covering it in houses. And what I mean by gold is going to be a huge point of contention in this game. Look at Skittle's map, guys. Do you see any gold? Not really. He's got some stone over here, but he's got a lot of food. He really does have a pretty good, you know, food distribution here, but his closest gold mine is this gold mine, and it's right next to DauT's TC. It's like just a couple steps away. You know, Skittle could harvest from this gold mine, but again, really far away, really hard to defend. And there is this gold mine all the way over here, but again, those gold mines are super, super hard to defend. So I expect to see some really, really super aggression from these two players as they compete to control the gold, but really I think that DauT is, again, heavily favored here just because the gold is all so close to his town center. It's going to be really tough, I think, for Skittle to come out on top here, but, you know, he definitely has a chance, especially because he has a lot better food distribution than DauT does. They both have about the same amount of boars and sheep, except, you know, DauT has to build another mill over here to harvest from these deer, whereas Skittle gets to save a little bit of wood and just harvest from everything down here. The real question to me is exactly what type of strategies that we'll see from the players here. It definitely varies on Land Nomad a bit, but for the most part, you expect a fast castle age from everybody. However, something that we might see is for the pocket players here, like Andorin or Arma, the Jordan, and the Viper, we might actually see some slinging action, in fact, coming from the players. And yeah, we can see a gold mine coming out from the Viper right off the bat, so I'm almost certain at this point that this early gold signifies he's going for fast castle age. He's going to want to try and get to the feudal age a little bit later than most people with a little extra population, so he has more villagers gathering resources and stockpiling food while he advances, and then he's going to try and you know, go all the way up to close to 800 food and 200 gold stockpiled. So when he hits the feudal age, he can build his 2 buildings, like his blacksmith and market, and then immediately click up to the castle age. And that should be really potent. But for the other pocket players, I expect to see maybe some slinging going on here, as some of these players are in a pretty easy to defend situation here. I mean, if I look at green, you know, he's actually pretty far from his opponents. Teal as well. Perhaps one of these guys will try slinging one of their flanks. And if you're not sure what slinging is it's basically where you advance to the feudal age, you build a market, and you just start tributing resources to one of your flank players. And of course, the flank players are the ones that are adjacent to an enemy, so Kkab and NilPferD are flank players, and then we got the pocket is the one that's surrounded by your teammates, not adjacent to an enemy. And it's okay to go for something like a sling in the pocket rather than on the flank, because you're a lot farther away from the enemy, a lot easier to defend. It's going to take a lot longer for enemy troops to get to you, so it's a lot less risky there. We might see some slinging from the players, as I've seen them do this type of thing before, but I expect to see a fast castle age from almost everybody. One thing that is curious to see is that DauT actually has a barracks already, and if I look at the map, I do believe he is the only player with a barracks right now. Oh, whoa, wait. Oh, okay, so DauT is actually already up to the feudal age, which is absolutely critical here, and TheViper as well. Both 2 very, very quick feudal age times, and the reason I bring this up is incredibly important is we got to take a look at Skittle right now, because, like I said, I feel like this is the area where all the action is going to occur, and we look at Skittle, and he is just starting to advance to the feudal age. That's really bad, because DauT's already there, and he's going to build this stable and blacksmith, and then I'm assuming, like, as soon as that's built, he's just going to click up to the castle age, just as I was talking about. I mean, look at his resource distribution, guys. DauT, of course, an incredibly skilled player, obviously, and he's set up his economy, like, basically perfectly for this, and do a little bit of force drop-off. He'll take his villagers, he'll, you know, have them drop it off at the town center, and he's good to go. He's already advancing to the castle age, and Skittle's in the dark age. Oh my goodness, and DauT is, like, he's on his way to the castle age, so, you know, he's halfway to the feudal age. DauT going to the castle age. This is really, really bad. This is really bad. And Skittle is aware of this situation, of course, and he is going to wall this area off and try and stall for time. Now, when I look at DauT's setup here, what does this tell me? Pretty obvious, right? He's going for knights. I can tell he's going for knights because he built a stable and a blacksmith. Presumably, the blacksmith will be for the +1 defense upgrade for his knights. And, you know, the stable, I mean, he's going to go for knights. They always go for knights because knights are such a strong unit. Oh my god, he's already up to the castle age. Are such, sorry, he's not up to the castle age. Sorry, he's up to the feudal age. DauT is close to the castle age. He's like halfway there. You always see players go for knights because knights are just incredibly strong against all the feudal age units in the game. They're really, really hard to deal with. Like, really hard to deal with. You really can't make enough spearmen to take out the knights effectively. And okay, now this is something that I like to see from DauT, is he's actually building a scout first as he is advancing to the castle age. That way he can scout out the map. Because remember, guys, you don't start with a scout, so if we look at his map vision, it's very limited right now. And by having a scout, he'll be able to look around and find the vulnerabilities in his opponent's bases. The goal with most raiding is you want to look for your opponent's external resources, places where their villagers are exposed, like so. If we look right here, he's got a bunch of these hunters out here, and they're so far away from the town center, they're just gonna die. So you want to look for enemy lumber camps, mining camps, anything that's far away from a town center, and just try and focus those down. Now, I just noticed that DauT did get a little bit of tribute from our good friend Jordan over here, so Jordan then is definitely doing some slinging, and we know he's doing some slinging because he's also trying to wall up his half of the map completely with palisades. Yep. So Jordan doing a little bit of slinging right now, and well, DauT's up to the castle age. This is looking pretty bad for Skittle. And Skittle, you know, he's going to put up some stone walls there, which I think is a very wise move, because those little popsicle stick walls are definitely not going to stop the knights. And Siege Workshop coming down from DauT. He's probably going to put out some battering rams, maybe some mangonels, and I expect him to build like a mangonel first, probably, so that he can have some range to destroy any villagers that try to reinforce this area with more walls. But I think that this is only going to maybe mildly annoy DauT and not really stop him. We'll see, we'll see. Skittle, though, is going to close off this back area. He does need to close off that, I think. I believe that's open. And I think what DauT's going to do right now is, since he realizes that this area is closed off, he's going to make a siege weapon of some sort. Okay, he's going to start with the mangonel, right? And he's going to go try and find someone who's a little bit more vulnerable. It looks like DauT actually did get a villager here for free with his scouts. That's really good. Oh, here's something that's interesting. He actually got the Bloodlines upgrade, which is normal, but he went for the +1 attack rather than the defense. But I think that's fair considering that our good friend Teal over here is actually still in the Feudal Age, despite being in the pocket, and I don't believe he's being slung, but I should double check that. Don't believe Arma is being slung. Yeah, and he's about halfway up to the Castle Age. Based off his resource count, I can assume he's not being slung. And DauT knows that yellow is kind of well defended right now. He's going to wait for some siege weapons to go attack a more vulnerable player and really just start harassing Teal. Now, if I look at this other half of the map, it looks like red here tried to sneak a bunch of stables and whatnot towards the back here in case Kkab tried to wall another area, I'm assuming. I'm not quite sure why all these things are back here. But it could be sneaky, and it looks like NilPferD is, based off his score, I can assume that he's being slung. So let's go check that out really quickly. And I expect him to start putting actually some heavy pressure on Kkab, who's also going for knights. So there's going to be a lot of action on this side as well, but it's probably going to take a little bit. And you know, during this time, as he is pressuring this market and trying to really desperately get these villagers, he might be competing. He might be going for these villagers a little too much. Maybe this isn't worth it, but he's going to get him eventually. And during this time, he's putting immense pressure. Skittle is going to lose this market, which is really bad, and he's going to lose this blacksmith as well. If we look at the Viper over here, just happily booming, not caring at all. Which is really, I think that this is the win condition going on right now. Oh, okay, all right. So we can see right here that NilPferD is being slung. So the Viper here on a 3 TC boom. He's probably going to put down another one at some point soon. And this is good because this is basically their win condition. If you look at Teal over here, he's certainly not booming because he's got a barracks, he's got a blacksmith. He's definitely not booming off this. We know green is slinging. We know red's on the offensive. Yellow is under attack. So if the Viper doesn't need to help his teammates for a little while and he gets a massive economy, then the enemy team is screwed. The enemy team is screwed. They basically have to win this early before the Viper hits critical mass. And let's not forget that the Viper is actually Persians as well, so his boom is extra strong as his town centers do create villagers faster and research technologies now faster. Now, Skittle actually does get a really good kill on that Mangonel here, and that does buy him just a little bit of time. And ooh. Okay, so Red's Knights going around here. I'm assuming he wanted to get into Kkab's base, but it looks like he's taking a really lengthy detour. I'm actually not quite sure what his plan is here because it looks like he's not going for DauT's economy, and DauT here going to keep laying the pressure on Skittles. And the Mangonel here is super important because, again, Skittle cannot actually reinforce this wall because the Mangonel is just going to kill it. I do really like this response from him to go, you know, with the monastery and the siege workshop because he's gonna need some Mangonels to kill those other Mangonels and to kill the battering ram to just stall for time. But here's the problem. Here's why I said that losing the market was really bad, and I think this is going to be probably the I don't know, that might even decide the game, honestly, because if I look at this, remember guys, Skittle has absolutely no access to gold whatsoever. I mean, okay, he's got this gold mine, but the way that he has the walls situated, it's incredibly difficult to saturate. He can only have 4 gold miners there before they all get clumped up on each other, which is going to be really bad. He's trying to desperately wall this off. He's going to lose a lot of villagers and going to weaken his eco. So yeah, he's got no gold, so he needs to use the market to sell food and to sell wood to be able to create mangonels. If you look at his resource count, actually, as I'm going to swap back to that really quickly. Look at his resource count. He actually hasn't, he's just producing a mangonel now because he had to build another market, and this is really bad because during this time he's being pressured super hard and he needed to get that mangonel out. He really did. And it looks like red is into Kkab's base here as he has actually blown down this side of the map. He has damaged these houses and he's coming in with a bunch of siege weapons and he has a ton of knights. So Kkab is going to be under a lot of pressure here. As remember guys, red was slung. He was tributed a bunch of resources from Andorin over here, who has, you know, all walled up and defended himself. Now, the slinging is a strategy where it works really well if you can protect the person who is slinging, but if you don't, then they have no way to defend themselves, and we can see a great example of this here where Jordan's base is getting raided by knights and he has no way to defend this. He doesn't have a barracks or anything, and NilPferD is going to do an absolute ridiculous amount of damage to this eco, and that's why you can see that Jordan is actually stonewalling off a good chunk of his economy, so he can keep the flow of resources coming to DauT, who is just absolutely steamrolling Skittle here. Skittle is in really deep trouble because he couldn't respond with the mangonels and the knight combination. This is really cheeky, by the way. I love that he tried to sneak that villager in there to, you refresh this wall off. Actually, that's a really good play. That might buy him just enough time. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, he wasn't able to respond because he couldn't afford the right units. He really needed to get a Mangonel out sooner, and he just couldn't because he didn't have the money. Absolutely tragic, and let's not forget that during this time, the Viper booming completely uncontested. Something has to be done about that, but Jordan is actually being pressured extremely hard. He's falling behind Andorin, understandably, at this point, because he's being attacked. Andorin has not been touched, and if we look at this, if he loses his market, the slinging is done, but I expect him to repair it, which he should do in just a second. We have a huge battle going on over here between Kkab and NilPferD. They are going to be fighting a lot, and what I like to see, actually, is... Now, Kkab is prepared for this. Monks here, very, very good idea, is he put down the monastery a little bit earlier. We didn't get to check it out, because I can't be everywhere, but... he put down the monastery, making a couple monks, which he will be able to convert those expensive, pesky knights, which are just such a pain in the butt to deal with, man. Remember when NilPferD was, like, charging in here with the knights? What we saw right there was that Kkab has a bunch of monks inside this town center, so if we just check that out... Yeah, he has monks inside this town center, and what he's doing is every time Red comes in to go charge these monks, look, he just garrisons them in the town center, and the monks survive. Basically giving Red a really bad situation, where he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. He either has to kill the monks, or he has to risk, he has to kill the monks and not attack the villagers, which is what he wants to do, or he has to risk losing a knight to conversion, so he's gonna get out of there ASAP, and, well, during this time, things are escalating at an alarming rate as Teal is trying his best to send in some knights to go back up Skittle and defend him. Skittle, in this specific position, is just in a lot of trouble because what he has to do is put up a desperation castle, which I guess he did, as he's been heavily mining on stone here, and he put up this desperation castle, but I don't know if it'll hold. I do like to see, though, that he did stonewall, this area off to try and make it harder for the battering rams to get the surround, but, Teal's gonna need a lot more guys to take out DauT's army of knights, and during this time, while Skittle is holding on, all of his villagers are idle. They're all inside the town center, not gathering anything except for, the villagers over here and here, so... I don't know, he's got almost no economy. He's looking really, really bad right now. We're gonna need a huge army from Teal, and... Okay, so it looks like the Viper is actually going for camels now as he's on 5 stables, fully boomed up. I have finished farming. I would like to buy one of everything. He's gonna try and carry this game as the Viper has, a million stables out, and he's gonna start massing camels, which I think is a great, absolutely great decision on his part, because this way, the knights are, really hard countered by the camels, and the camels are fast enough that the knights can't really kite them, and that way he'll be able to really just deal with Red, who's been slung all game, right? So he's really strong, he has a lot of knights, someone needs to deal with him, and of course the Viper is here with his army of knights and camels, and he's just gonna absolutely clean up Red's army of knights right here, which is... I mean, honestly, that might be game, since Red hasn't been able to do too much damage to Kkab. Kkab been pressured all game, but the killing blow just has not been delivered yet. A lot of pressure put on him, but he's just been doing such a good job holding this off. It's been truly, truly phenomenal. Whereas Skittle, unfortunately, trying his best, but he is actually just not able to hold off against DauT. Him and Arma over here just do not have enough troops to take on DauT. And it looks like the TyRanT team just a little bit more coordinated here, and it looks like the enemy team is gonna resign. So NC, Arma, and Friends have decided to throw in the towel, and I think that's a fair decision at this point. Looking at the state of Skittle's base, he's in a really bad spot. He might be on 3 TCs, but there's no way he can defend against this upcoming push. We've got a castle coming out here from DauT, so this guy's basically dead. We needed a lot more troops from Arma if they wanted to win, and unfortunately, NilPferD just wasn't able to do enough damage to Kkab here, as Kkab did have a bunch of monks to back himself up, and the Viper had finally reached his critical mass. He'd been booming the entire game. He's got a ridiculous amount of villagers, which we're going to see in the achievement screen in a second. And yeah, there was really no answer to these camels. Basically, unfortunately for NC, Arma, and Friends, their game, unfortunately, just kind of fell apart. And I would say that the game spiraled out of control, mostly in part due to Skittle's unfortunate map layout and generation. He just had no access to gold whatsoever, and, watching him stonewall up this area, put down the monastery, put down a siege workshop, try to plop out a mangonel, and he just didn't have the money for it is really, really unfortunate. He wasn't able to mine any gold at all except for this one, and you can see eventually he decided to delete his walls and just put a TC here and try and mine that gold anyway, but too little, too late, unfortunately. Just wasn't able to survive DauT's onslaught. Really, honestly, the TyRanT team just played incredibly coordinated this game. It's like they all had it very, very well planned out. Like, Kkab was actually completely prepared for the, you know, the sling into knights, which basically both teams kind of mirrored each other's strategies, but not only did DauT have a better map than Skittle did, but I feel like TyRanT was on like a little bit better wavelength here, and that they were all kind of on the same page and better prepared to deal with the strategies, because Kkab here had like, he built this monastery really early, and he's just had a bunch of these monks out, and they walled up very, very nicely in anticipation of red being slung and going for knights, so they were able to respond to it. And they did have the Viper in the pocket position, booming up and going for camels, which would really just seal the deal over here. In order for them to win, they would have had to kill Kkab, and unfortunately on this end, Skittle just wasn't able to respond. I thought this was a really good game, though, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of this series turns out, because yes, even though this game wasn't amazingly close, still very high quality, and I think, though, that they have a chance. I definitely think that they have a chance. TyRanT, of course, TyRanT Legends, a very, very strong team, but they're not necessarily invincible, and, you know, a lot of these players have been around for long enough that I think if they work together, and if their map is maybe laid out just a bit better, I think they might be able to do it. So I look forward to seeing how the rest of the series turns out. All right, so let's go check out the rest of the achievements, shall we? What a game! What a game! What a game! Alright, so if we look at the scores, we can see the result of the Viper booming for 38 years, as he has a absolutely massive, massive score. The units killed, the units lost. Wow. I mean, it just seems... I actually have no idea what quite happened here, but it looks like Arma just really never got out too many troops. I need a largest army of 8, which is really, really small, and I guess, like, against DauT, that definitely wasn't enough in that specific situation. Poor Skittle only managed to get out 2 guys entirely. He did get to convert 3 because he just had no gold. He unfortunately had no gold. If you look at the difference in gold collected, we've got, you know, a meager 1,000 to a 4,500. And slinging really does make a massive difference. What you do, like, if DauT wasn't slung here, the Night Rush and whatnot would not have been nearly as effective. You wouldn't have been able to put on as much pressure, but by slinging DauT, because he got to the Castle Age first, right? Since he got like a ton of resources as well, he was able to put on so much pressure that Skittle couldn't really do anything to defend against that, because not only did DauT get to the Castle Age like a whopping 2 minutes quicker, but he also got there with a ton of money, so he could put down a siege workshop right off the bat, start pumping out siege weapons and going for knights, and I'm not actually quite sure what happened here, but it looks like the Feudal Age timings were just a little bit too slow for our NC Arma and Friends team. It's just a little bit too slow. Skittle there, a little over 2 minutes to the Feudal Age after DauT, which is unfortunate. That gave DauT a huge, huge advantage. Like, by the time DauT was already advancing to the Castle Age, like, Skittle was like halfway to the Feudal Age, so that's not good. That's not good. We also see like a 2-minute difference between Castle Ages here. The player that gets to the Castle Age is usually at a massive advantage in Age of Empires 2, just mostly due to the power of knights. Knights incredibly hard to deal with, and then of course, you know, you can put down additional town centers, you can make siege weapons. There's a huge, huge power spike from the Feudal Age to Castle Age, so it's important that you don't fall behind your opponent and you don't give them a tech advantage. The Desperate Castle attempt was a really good idea, I think, and it was probably his only hope in this case, but it didn't end up working out in the end, unfortunately, as you know, the Viper was going to close that game out one way or another. And look at the villager high difference. Oof. Oh my, oh my, oh my. It's not a good sign when you see that one of your flank players has as many villagers as the you know, enemy pocket who's slinging. That's not usually very good. When I look at the NC Arma and Friends team, they didn't actually have anybody booming, and the Viper didn't need to do anything until, like, you know, maybe 28 to 30 minutes in, so he got like a lot of just completely undisturbed booming time, which just gave him a huge, huge edge. And every single member of the NC Arma and Friends team needed to do something, and they needed to go defend each other, so I don't know. Things kind of fell apart for them, but they played very, very well, and they are playing against some of the best players in Age of Empires 2, so it's gonna be a hard match regardless, no matter who is facing TyRanT Legends. I really do look forward to seeing how the rest of this series turns out. Really, really, just a bunch of great play, all around, all around. I expect the next game to be a little bit closer, I guess, as the players have now been a little bit more exposed to TyRanT's coordination and strategy. Alright guys, so it's been a while since I've done one of the competitive Age of Empires 2 commentaries. It's been a while since I've watched one of the pro games and given my analysis on it, so I'd really love to hear what you think. Is this the type of thing that you want to see more from me? Obviously I'm not replacing the normal Age of Empires 2 community streams where I play with you guys. I'll still be doing those, but I mean, in addition to that, would you like to see more of this type of thing? Would you like to see me do some future War is Coming commentaries? Of course, besides, Game 1, I will finish the rest of the series either way, but let me know if you want me to do the rest of the War is Coming. I would love to, and show off the other tournaments as well in the future, perhaps. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I really do appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave me a like rating, as it does help me out a lot. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, I have plenty of other Age of Empires 2 videos on my YouTube channel, as well as videos for other games, so if you like this one, you'll probably like those as well. As always guys, your support is sincerely appreciated. Thank you, and I look forward to bringing the rest of the series to you guys and seeing how it ends. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, I'll see you all next time. GG, well played!